My name is Chrystal and this is my 75-hour portfolio. I was placed in a 6th grade class at East Fairmont Middle School. I had about 140 students a day. So at first this was very difficult for me. It was hard to learn their names and hard to learn individual things about each student because I wasn't with them for the full time period. But after a while I did get to know the students really well, and this was probably, a lot of people consider this class to be the hardest class to teach. It's right after lunch, the kids are kind of excited, it's after recess, so they're used to playing and having fun, and it can be difficult to get them to kind of settle down and get motivated to get into the work. But I think that one of my strengths is the fact that I don't let stereotypes about specific students or classes dictate how I see them. And my quote is, "Do not train a child to learn by force or harshness, but direct them to it by what amuses their minds, so that you may be able to discover with accuracy the peculiar bent of the genius of each." So I like this quote because I think that it really says that each student has something to bring to the table. Each student is important and each student can learn. And then there's my note card confession. Standard 1, Curriculum and Planning. For this standard, I incorporated a unit plan that I also made for my Social Studies Methods class, and it deals with propaganda and how propaganda affects students. This was more geared towards a high school class, so I haven't got to teach it yet, but I think that it would be fun. And the way that I introduce the lesson is that I show things that these students see on a daily basis. They see makeup ads and different sports drinks things, and I think that students don't always realize that these are forms of propaganda, and that they do influence their decisions, like using a popular singer to advertise makeup obviously draws students in, especially if they like that singer. So I think that doing these types of things make the lessons more relevant to the students, and the summative assessment was a project-based learning activity. They were to research a topic that they think is important to them and create their own propaganda for it. And it could be a topic that is relevant to the world. This one is an example from more of a World War II class, but it says, "If you don't plant a victory garden, you and Hitler will be 2 peas in a pod. Plant your victory garden today." So I think that doing these things also lets students figure out what's important to them, what issues in the world matter to them, and how they actually impact their lives. And I also think that it lets them express themselves. It gets their creativity out, and it gets the people who are good at researching and finding things. It reaches a broad base of students. To improve this, I think that I would like to do more formative assessments throughout this lesson. Most of my assessments were in the form of exit slips. So I think that if I did more of a writing activity and more of a think, fair, share to get students to express how they feel about these certain topics, it would be more beneficial and more meaningful to them. Standard 2, the learner. I had a specific struggling student that I became very attached to throughout my placement. For the purpose of this, I'm going to call him Jay. I used his RTI form. Jay did not struggle academically. He was always the first student to get his work done, and it was always accurate. He usually got A's on everything. His problem came when he got it done before everyone else, so he would get bored. And when he was bored, he would cause distractions. And it kind of took away from the other students learning because they would watch him and they would laugh at him, and it was hard for them to focus on what they were supposed to be doing because he was finished and he didn't have anything else to do. So he also had a very hard home life. He had been bounced around to various foster homes, and he recently was taken away from his biological younger brother. So I found out that one way that he likes to express his feelings and kind of relieve stress is through journaling and writing. He likes to write, and he writes really well. So one of my lessons, I tried to make it more relevant to them. I think that it's hard for our students, especially 6th graders, to understand the concept of civil rights and separate but equal, and these types of things can be very overwhelming and foreign to them. So I try to make it more relevant. One day we went out for recess, and usually they all play in a very grassy area, flat, so they play games and roll and they flip around. and I made my students sit and play on a hill. So their mobility was very limited. And they would look at the other classes and they would come up to me and ask, Miss Johnson, why can't we go play over there? Why do we have to play on this hill? And I would say, it's separate, but it's equal. So I could tell that they didn't really understand what I meant by that. And then I connected it back to the lesson that day, because when they came back to the classroom, this is what we were learning about, specifically the Little Rock Nine. And I had them read a little excerpt about the Little Rock Nine, and then I asked them to do a short writing assignment for 2 minutes about whether or not they would have been willing to be one of the Little Rock Nine, to be one of the first African American students to integrate into a Southern school. And a lot of them said that they would. They said that they thought that it might be a little bit difficult, but they think that they would eventually be able to get used to it. And then I showed them a video clip of what actually happened to these students when they tried to go to school. And it was about a 3-minute clip. And after the video, I had them write down if their responses had changed. And a lot of them said that they couldn't do it. They would not be able to face that kind of adversity every day while they try to go to school. And this is an excerpt of his writing. It says, I would want to go. I could have a better education, and I could make a difference for other African Americans. It would be easier to get to school. The white school would have a better education, allowing me to do more. It would be fully funded by the Board of Education. And then after watching the video, he said, my opinion has not changed, because getting past the obstacles would prove that African Americans were willing to fight for desegregation. And this showed me that it did connect with him, and it was beneficial to him, because he took a lot of time to write this and to organize his thoughts and to plan this out. So I think that incorporating more writing activities that are geared towards things that make the content relevant to the students helps them have a deeper understanding, but I also think that it helps them understand why it's important today. Because a lot of students don't understand this. They've never lived in a time, I've never lived in a time where such civil rights were such a big issue in regard to race. And I think that this helped him understand. And it also helped him stay on task, because it was something he was passionate about. He was writing, he was expressing his feelings in a positive way. And to improve this, I found a video on the teaching channel called Writing to Learn. And you read a prompt to them, or you take something from the lesson and you have them connect it to their lives and why it matters to them, and if they can think of any examples from their life that connects with this. And I think that that would be beneficial for all students, not just my student, because it makes it relevant to them. They can understand why this is important and why it matters, because they can see, usually they can see examples in their lives. And if they can't, I would have other students share theirs, so that maybe it would help them brainstorm and figure out something that might be connected to their lives.
Great. And this is what you, because we were talking earlier in the semester, you wanted to introduce journaling to socialize. This is the way you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Because it does get to that personal, that emotional side, as well as sort of like making the content memorable.
Yes.
Yeah. Great.
And standard 3 is teaching. For teaching, for this one, I talked about the importance of inclusion and the importance of establishing a safe environment where students do feel like they can communicate how they feel without fear of being judged by other students and by the teacher. And for this, we played rock, paper, scissors, entourage. It was hard because it was raining outside, so we couldn't play it outside, and there was testing, so we couldn't be in the gym because the gym is next to a computer lab. So I told the students that we could, usually during recess they watch America's Funniest Home Videos if it's raining. So I told them that we could do that, or we could play this game if they were willing to try it, and if they were willing to help me move the desks. So they were excited, and we decided to try it. And I think that it really benefited this class specifically, because in this class, it's very cliquish. You can see the students that keep to their own little group, and they don't really venture outside to talk to other students, especially in 6th grade. So when we did this, at first it was hard for some of them to kind of let go and get into it, but I purposefully chose somebody to help me do the example with, and I knew that he would really get into it, and he did. He, and his lion roar, it was immaculate. But after they saw him kind of let go and get silly, they were all willing to.
Yeah.
And I think this also helped me connect with them in a way that I otherwise wouldn't have if this wasn't included. because they were able to see me as more of, not just as a teacher, but as somebody who does have feelings and as somebody who could let go and be silly and have fun with them.
Yeah.
It made me more approachable overall, I think.
Yeah, so some people think that, you know, when teachers act, it's not like you want them to see you as a peer, as a friend.
Mm-hmm.
But what's important is it sees you as multidimensional.
Yeah.
It's when teachers appear to be this one-dimensional, stereotypical kind of teacher that students don't relate to. So that's why doing these kinds of things and letting them see you in a different light is important to being a culturally responsive teacher.
Stand before, for this one, I focused on a voice through what I did by incorporating technology. Usually my host teacher doesn't really do technology because the computer gives us problems with the Wi-Fi, so this was one rare occasion where it actually worked, and I think the students really liked it. And it was Kahoot, so we had a quiz. It kind of also served as a formative assessment because they were able to answer the questions, and it was a review game. And the students, they were so excited because it plays this music and it kind of gets them on edge. And so they would write down their response, and then the immediate feedback would come back, and you would just hear cheers, or you would hear some people sigh because they were upset they got the wrong answer. But overall, I think that it was a very fun experience for them. I think that it also helped them relate more to the content because it was technology, and for them, I think technology is very relevant. Today, I think they spend a lot of time using technology, and seeing a review game that incorporates that helps them understand the content more, and it helps them connect better with it because it's more relevant. And then for my plans for improvement, I incorporated the engagement strategies chart, but I also think that this would be fun to do in groups. Originally, I was hesitant to try it in groups first because I wanted to do it by itself to kind of gauge student response and see how they liked it. But I think that if I tried it in groups, I would pass out note cards, and I would have the groups hold up the shape that corresponds with the answer that they think would be right, and I could keep score, so that way it would be a little competitive and maybe get more students involved. But overall, I think that my experience at the school was very rewarding. I did learn a lot, and I also think that this has helped me become a better teacher because I was able to experiment with some of these strategies that we learned and implement them in ways that were beneficial and helpful to me, but also the students.
Thank you, Chrystal. Wow.